We begin tonight with breaking news. Minutes ago, a U.S. Court of Appeals issued a temporary stay on an order to remove buoy barriers from the Rio Grande. These are barriers in the river intended to deter migrants from crossing. This week, a U.S. District Court judge ordered the state of Texas to remove them, arguing Texas needed congressional approval to install them. Let's get right to Scripps News national correspondent John Moan in Eagle Pass, Texas. John, what do you make of this breaking news?
Well, the state of Texas said it would appeal. It has gotten a stay. That is merely a pause on the process as the Fifth Circuit will look at the merits of the state of Texas's appeal. However, if you go into the ruling, the judge who issued the injunction, David Ezra of the federal district in Austin, said that he granted that preliminary injunction because he found that the federal government would likely succeed based on the arguments it was making. It was not making arguments about border security. It was making arguments that this buoy system behind me in the Rio Grande was obstructing a federally regulated waterway, and a waterway that is shared between the United States and Mexico, that is shared on the basis of various treaties, including the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, which ended the Mexican-American War, as well as the 1944 Water Treaty, and an act that the federal government claims that Texas broke, the RHA of 1899. So this process is on pause for now. The Fifth Circuit will have to look at this, but the judge overseeing this case also wrote in his court order that the Fifth Circuit would likely agree with him. So this is what we know for now. We did speak with people on the ground here, both supportive and very critical of this buoy system. Here's what they had to say. A federal district judge says Texas overstepped its bounds when it comes to monitoring the border in the Rio Grande, the river that divides the U.S. and Mexico, international waters typically under the purview of the federal government and not the states.
I'm glad the sooner they're out of the river, the better. I just don't want those buoys to be stored on city land. I want them gone forever, and I want the concertina wire gone. I want the containers gone.
America Garcia Graywall speaks of her opposition to the 1,000-foot river barrier Governor Greg Abbott ordered installed in the Rio Grande between Eagle Pass, Texas, and its neighboring city of Piedras Negras, Mexico. Abbott argues the barrier is another measure to discourage illegal crossings. Graywall believes the measures do not help.
The concertina wire exhausts people. They walk up and down the riverbank, and over 800 people died last year. Over 500 people have died this year. So this is just one more weapon in the arsenal that's killing people who are trying to seek asylum here in the United States.
Abbott didn't seek permission from the International Boundary and Water Commission. The IBWC is made up of the Mexican and U.S. governments, and it decides all issues about the river. The federal government sued, saying he violated the law governing all usable waterways in the U.S. by putting up the buoys. The federal judge slapped Texas with a preliminary injunction, saying Governor Abbott announced that he was not asking for permission for Operation Lone Star, the anti-immigration program under which Texas constructed the floating barrier. Unfortunately for Texas, permission is exactly what federal law requires before installing obstructions in the nation's navigable waters. Abbott has argued that the migrant crossings were an invasion of Texas and that he had the right to fight back under the U.S. Constitution. Guetta Diaz, a former Maverick County judge and Republican, thinks the barrier should stay put and believes the governor is doing the right thing.
The buoys that were placed that are still there at this point, not a single person has come across the buoys. Of course, it does not extend all the way down the river, but they go around it. Why? Because they cannot come across. So does it work? Yes.
The judge, who was appointed by President Ronald Reagan, sided with the Biden administration on this. The judge ruled that the buoys have to be removed by September 15th, also adding Abbott doesn't have the authority to declare an invasion. That power lies with Congress. The Biden administration argued that Abbott was harming diplomatic relations with Mexico and water navigation.
We want to work with Mexico. Does that say we're friends with Mexico? No, it doesn't.
Activist and local Democratic Party leader Juanita Martinez says huge law enforcement and National Guard presence has militarized her hometown.
This is what I'm fighting. What I find most grievous is this concertina wire.
Abbott says Texas will appeal in a written statement saying the court decision merely prolongs President Biden's willful refusal to acknowledge that Texas is rightfully stepping up to do the job that he should have been doing all along. Local migrant aid groups said the buoys are equipped with razor-sharp wire and are dangerous and ineffective.
Porque eso es lo que está pidiendo.
Peace is what many organizations are asking for. We are in favor of life. We are in favor of opening our hearts and our doors to anyone who needs them. The buoys are going to be a danger. These buoys are not helping at all. And the Fifth Circuit of Appeals is thought to be more of a conservative-leaning institution in the federal court system. That being said, there was a Supreme Court case earlier when Arizona expanded many of its own programs to enforce border security, and it took on the federal government. The Supreme Court, though, roundly rejected that notion. So if this does head to the Supreme Court, Christian, there already is precedence for a Supreme Court, whether it's conservative or not, to reject the notion that a state has more power to enforce border security than the federal government.
Yeah. John Moan, thank you for your reporting along the border in southern Texas. We appreciate it. I want